I don't understand the need to yell. And voila, we are back in a very, very chilly Adelaide.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Warmest greetings one and all, and thanks for tuning in. There has to be an end to every trip, and I embark on the homebound flight today from Perth. Our journey begins here at Terminal 4, so let's get cracking. And good day everyone, welcome back to the final episode of this travel series. And I find myself here in Perth Domestic Airport at Terminal 4. This is the terminal where Qantas and Jetstar and all the other Qantas affiliated carriers fly out from. So I'm embarking on the final flight of this travel series to take me back to Adelaide. And today I'm flying Jetstar on this rather lengthy flight between Perth and Adelaide. So the first stop for this video will be the lounge. So come along with me and see what the experience of this longish Jetstar flight is going to be like. Come, let's do this.
Everybody just do your thing.
If you're new to my channel, my name's Ryan. Born and bred in Singapore, my love for food and travel knows no bounds. I can't seem to sit still, which explains videos of me flying from my home state of South Australia just to eat at far-flung destinations. Today's episode is no exception. It's a small part of a wider travel series which began in Adelaide, where I ended up in Brisbane. From there, I spent the entire next day flying, first to Sydney, then on a lengthy transcontinental flight where I ended up in Perth. Embedded within this series are flight reviews, hotel run-throughs, and foodie videos. So if you're into unsponsored travel content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. Oh, giving me a like will definitely encourage me to keep on doing what I do. So here's the thanks, because your support is very much appreciated. In my last two videos, I touched on my rants about the state of affairs with Qantas and how they were driving me up the wall. Since Jetstar is part of the family, I'll continue my thoughts about this and share with you why this low-cost carrier has been my choice carrier for many years in my time living in this country. Walking into the airside portion of Perth Airport, I always seem to be confronted by aggressive security personnel hell-bent on letting us know who holds the power. On my last trip to Perth, I flew out of Terminal 1, where these guys ran after me when they saw me fiddling with the GoPro as I walked away. I got yelled at for holding the camera in my hand, even though I wasn't exactly filming anything. Today, we have the exact same treatment of passengers getting treated like children in an orphanage, getting shuffled from here to there. Bloody hell, that has got to be one of the most intense security checks I've ever done. Yeah, this is Perth Domestic Terminal 4 for you. All the yelling. I don't even know why is it necessary to yell at people. Yeah, why yell? Just politely say your instructions to the passengers who are coming through. I don't understand the need to yell. Terminal 4 is used by Qantas and Qantas Link. It is linked to Terminal 3, which hosts Jetstar, and the international operations of Qantas to Singapore, London, Rome, and Johannesburg. Especially the international portion, it is a very makeshift affair, because this terminal wasn't designed to handle such facilities. But Perth Airport has decided to consolidate the operations of Qantas, both domestic and international, into this side of the airfield, because there's just no space over at Terminal 1. Later in the video, you'd see the constraints this would cause when the gates we are assigned to are used for both domestic and international. During much of COVID and the numerous times I've come here afterwards, the Qantas Club has been shut. So this trip marks my first time back here in years. After having spent the last few trips downstairs at the business lounge, I have always preferred this lower-tiered lounge because of how spacious it is. The oodles amount of natural light flowing in makes this an extremely relaxing place to be. Sure, it doesn't have the popular pizza oven and whatnot, but the view here, oh my god! We have an uninterrupted scenery of both runways and Terminals 1 and 2 across the airfield. I've come to the airport early today to get a bit of work done, so having this quiet space to do it, I couldn't be more grateful. The Qantas Club shuts daily at about 4:30 as the domestic flights start to taper off and die down. Any remaining stragglers like me will be reminded over the blower to head downstairs to the business lounge before we get chased out by cleaners with dusty brooms crackling like the Wicked Witch of the West. So to the next lounge we go. See what I mean? Now you know why I much prefer the lounge upstairs. We take a little walk through a magic tunnel and we're now suddenly transported into Terminal 3, the old playground of Ansett and Virgin Australia. The situation here is definitely a lot more cozy compared to Terminal 4, but we'll make do. A very cheerful set of ground crew is usually a great precursor to how the flight will turn out. In fact, they were so ungrumpy, no one even bothered to weigh anyone's carry-on and mark it with an orange tag. Jetstar is ordinarily extremely strict about this, and being just a smidge over your allowable 7 kilos for carry-on, you'll be slapped with an additional 60 Australian dollars. Today, we were all ready for an early boarding for an on-time departure. But we were assigned a gate which shares a narrow glassed-in walkway used by numerous other gates as well. These gates are used for international flights where arrival passengers are funneled to immigration at the opposite end. So this walkway can only be used by one flight at any given time. Because we had a flight arriving from Brisbane, we could not use it until the aircraft had fully deplaned of passengers and crew. If you look at the floor tiles, you can tell this used to be one continuous space for a domestic terminal. In September 2018, Qantas commenced non-stop flights to London from Perth. And because Qantas International used to be in Terminal 1, it was essential to consolidate everything here to allow the seamless transit of domestic passengers onto that flight. And that was how part of Terminal 3 became international. So when you step off an international flight, you turn left when you exit the gate and follow this walkway to immigration at the other end, so you do not mingle with international departing passengers behind the glass. It is not an ideal setup, but this band-aid situation will suffice for now until a new international facility is built. Well, at least that's in the plans. When will it happen is anyone's guess. On this evening's journey, I had very little opportunity to look at the aircraft before boarding. Taking us across the continent on JQ 985 from Perth to Adelaide is Victor Quebec Foxtrot, an Airbus A320-200, which first flew in March 2008, making her just over 15 years old at the time of writing. Most travelers would agree unanimously that flying on Jetstar is pure torture. But there are ways to make your journey that little bit more tolerable. Ever since I discovered the wonders of row number 1, I have not looked back. And since I always fly Jetstar on the most expensive fare bracket, these spacious seats are free to choose, so happy days. Although the strange thing is, this aircraft does not have the usual bulkhead, so this does feel a little exposed. Let's explore the Spartan seat features as we are waiting for the doors to close. A single recline button gives you that little smidge of comfort, but don't expect the recline to be heading into the next suburb. Oh, of course, you get the usual amenities from the overhead. And that's it really. As long as you accept that this is a low-cost situation, you'll be fine. Doors were now closed and we're ready for pushback. Because of the situation along the walkway earlier on, where we could not board due to the late arrival of that flight from Brisbane, our pushback ended up being 17 minutes behind schedule. However, we made up for it in the air and landed bang on time at our destination. So it wasn't that big of a deal in the end. Plus, this being the last few flight movements at Adelaide Airport at arrival, chances of passengers having onward flights to get to is close to zero. Jetstar's shocking on-time performance has been on a downward trajectory for a while now. In the month of June 2023, only 66% of their flights departed on time, with a 3.7% cancellation rate. As much as we'd like to flame Jetstar, their on-time performance is really no different to Virgin Australia, who's only marginally better off at 67%, but with a far higher cancellation rate at 4.2%. Stats don't lie. When you break down Virgin Australia further into their regional services, their on-time performance comes in at a measly 59% and a cancellation rate of 6.9%. Far out, Brussels sprouts. So Jetstar might not be that bad after all.
That's my protection. That's a kind of silence.
What a beautiful sunset that is on takeoff. If it wasn't for the dirty windows, this would have been a picture-perfect departure. We would coast out of Western Australia into the Great Australian Bight, and we won't make landfall until the southern tip of the Eyre Peninsula in South Australia. We would perform a couple of dogleg maneuvers for sequencing prior to arrival, before approaching Adelaide from the north, clocking a total distance of just over 2,300 kilometers and a flight time of 2 hours 55 minutes. This is the legroom situation. I did mention it was a strange configuration because the usual row 1 situation looks like this. So this version I'm on has an extra row minus the bulkhead, giving a grand total of 186 seats. Otherwise, anything from row 2 onwards, you're dealing with a seat pitch of an eye-watering, painful 29 inches, which I would wish on no one. Maybe except some annoying in-laws and nosy neighbors. So there are ways to fly Jetstar more comfortably, and this is how you do it. This flight on JQ985 was part of a redemption trip I made to fly all around Australia to get rid of my QANTAS points. While I would have redeemed a business class award seat on QF888, which would have departed 10 minutes after us on the same flight path, there were no more award space available. So that was how I ended up here. You see, I really don't mind Jetstar at all, because they are what they are, and they don't promise to be anything else but a point A to B method of transportation. On longer A320 international flights to Bali and New Zealand, you actually get to purchase warm meals like a butter chicken and rice, which is surprisingly delicious. But on domestic sectors, the only thing worth looking at is this ham and cheese toastie. Everything else just goes downhill into an in-flight catering hellhole of tasteless meat pies and watery diluted cup noodles. And yes, I've flown Jetstar enough to have gone through their in-flight menu of hot options. So ham and cheese toastie it is for me every single time. The crew was nice enough to offer us in the front row extra serves of hot bevy if we wanted. This is the second time it has happened to me, and although I declined, it was a nice gesture nonetheless. Jetstar frequently gets roasted for having grumpy onboard service. but I suppose it goes both ways. If you're nice to the crew, they'll be pleasant to you likewise. Besides that manager who threatened me once, which was coincidentally on this very same flight some years ago, I've always had nothing but great in-flight service from the Jetstar team. I think their job is already hard enough without the delays and cancellations. So let's all just take a breather and make it a mission not to take it out on the cabin crew. One of the advantages of row number 1 is knowing immediately when the toilets are available. And just like that, it's just a hop and skip away from your seat. The toilets were kept very clean throughout the flight, which was great to see. I've always wondered about this contraption to dispose of needles. Why is it there? And if it is needed, how did these items get past airport security in the first place? And why are they only found on Aussie aircraft? Or more specifically on Virgin and Jetstar planes? Are they also found in Qantas aircraft toilets? Is there a specific disposal method by the cleaning crew? I'm genuinely curious, so please leave a comment if you know the answer. So here we are at the tail end of this trip I took all because I got so fed up with Qantas. The gripes I have with the flying kangaroo have all been detailed in 2 videos before this, so I won't go into detail here. But suffice to say, it was an accumulated build-up, the end result of 1,000 paper cuts arriving at a dramatic crescendo of me looking into my Qantas account to empty it of my points. After this trip, I barely even scraped it, so I still have heaps to unload. But with my anger subsided, I will somehow find some use for these points. My overall issue with Qantas Mainline is of them over-promising and under-delivering. They style themselves as a full-service premium carrier, but fall seriously short in product delivery. Which is why I look to Jetstar to accumulate my Qantas points. On this sector, I would ordinarily pay the maximum possible fare, which would nab me 1,650 points and 30 status credits, versus 1,200 points and 30 status credits with Qantas. And these points are for a flexible economy fare. A quick look at a random date 2 months from now for flexible economy one-way fares show Jetstar coming in at $289. And to fly Qantas with similar fare conditions to earn those points and status credits, you'd have to fork out $844. Are your toes curling yet? And this is why, despite the bad rep Jetstar gets, I hunker down and accept what travel with the low-cost airline entails. I also make sure my schedule is well padded if Jetstar is ever included in my plans, because God forbid should I be caught up in their delays. Besides COVID cancellations, they've thankfully never ever failed me. And unlike Qantas, whose bait-and-switch tactics advertises like a supermodel, but instead you're presented with a dark, damp alley of suspicious proportions. So we know Jetstar is crap. But in the wise words of my hero, no, not her, but her, Jetstar is really better the devil you know. I realized that my last 2 videos were going to be very divisive. You would have either agreed with the points made, or I would have gotten under your skin and sounded like a spoiled brat. Suppose I felt the need to call out the flying kangaroo for this current situation we're in, and how it has affected me as a customer. I also aim to balance the good and bad, so despite the negative undertones, I did have a couple of positive experiences throughout my trip with the flying kangaroo. But some of you felt the need to message me personally and give me a roasting about my views, totally ignoring the fact that I also did point out the good bits. You see, as a content creator, I have opinions. And whether you like it or not, opinions drive these videos. Which is why going forward, I've decided to have the personal opinion disclaimer right at the beginning. Because a video without opinions would be no different to a PowerPoint presentation at an office meeting. So there you go. We're now approaching Adelaide International Airport, which means it's time to conclude this video right here, right now.
I can feel you.
And voila, we are back in a very chilly Adelaide. So that was my flight on Jetstar for you from Perth to Adelaide. Fantastic flight, crew was excellent, so not much complaints there. So anyway, I've chucked details of my Instagram on your screen, so make sure you hit me up there, chuck me a follow, so you can actually see where am I traveling to in real time. It also gives you an idea of the type of videos that will be coming up on my YouTube channel, okay? Of course, more importantly, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and that bell notification icon so you know every time I embark on another trip like this. In the meantime, take care all of you, and I will see you for my next video. Bye!